In my last video, I talked about and demonstrated the great OpenVR FSR mod by F. Holger on GitHub. And while that can be used in a great many OpenVR games, it can't be used in AMS2, Automobilista 2, and similarly Project Cars 2, I believe. And that's just down to apparently them using an old API. But a clever soul over on the Razer forums, who goes by the name of New Scorpy, has adapted the mod to actually work with AMS2. And again, it's just a case of dragging and dropping. In this case, the files just need to go into your main Automobilista 2 folder, x64, and you can see there's the OpenVR API. And if you haven't seen my last video, I really recommend watching that before this one, even if you just intend to use AMS2. I'm just going to change that to like old. Just going to keep it. When you download, you get these 4 files, and it's a case of copy them and drop them in here. And likewise, in the last video, you can adjust the settings here. I'm going to put it on ultra quality. There we go. I'm going to leave sharpness as is. So yeah, I'm just going to run back to back like the last video, do a full grid. I'm going to really whack up the graphics, put them on high, put this super sampling up, and we'll see what kind of jump we get. Okay, so of course first off let's check out my graphics settings. This is generally what I run usually, and I actually run the 80% super sampling because although the game does run very well, 80% still looks fantastic, and it just ensures an optimal performance really in nearly all scenarios. But so I put it to 100%. Obviously we're going to run at 16 anisotropic. MSAA, we're going to put this high. In fact, you know what, we're going to put everything as high as it will go. Go crazy. I'm not necessarily looking to achieve the required 75 frames per second here. I'm just going to see what I achieve at full settings without the mod and then with it. And detailed grass, I know that's a bit of a hit. Obviously OBS is always a hit, I'm probably going to mention that numerous times. There we go. So, all set. Okay, so we're at Nürburgring, just as I was really for the ACC test. Clear sky, evening time, and a 20 car grid with me in the middle. And I'm just going to hang around the middle. And you can see I've got 100% Steam super sampling. And all the settings pretty much as high as they would go. And you can see FPS is struggling. Which is fair enough. 40 odd FPS, average about 40. But it looks darn good. Boy, does it look good. Always a beautiful game. So it'll be interesting to see the results of this, because some people in the comments were saying they weren't happy with how it looked afterwards. Certainly in ACC I was very happy. So some people are saying they need to use sharpening in the game, because in the documentation for the mod it specifically says turn off the in-game sharpening, you know, in the XML file. So I've turned that off, but some people said they still need some of that on. But we'll see. As I just rammed the Porsche there. It's full on target fixation. What's going on? So yeah, that's a lap done. You know, 40 odd frames per second average. Of course, I did say I'll mention it numerous times, OBS is running, so it's always a hit, hence the high frame time, and bear that in mind. So there we go. 40 frames per second on these ridiculous settings. So let's get the mod going and see what results we can achieve. Okay, so we know I was getting somewhere around the 40 mark by the end of the lap. Let's see what we get here. We're still quite low. We've got only about a 10 FPS jump. I mean, the game still looks really sharp. So perhaps ultra quality isn't needed. I might try dropping it one and coming back, because we've had very little gain here. Very little gain. Yeah, nothing to write home about. You know, as I say, I'm not expecting to get up to the refresh rate, but certainly want to see a nice bump. Well, let's wait. Let's get round to the end of the lap and see what sort of average we're getting then. Still looks beautiful. It's still very sharp. So I think when I downloaded the mod, the actual configuration file was set to balanced, and I changed that to ultra quality. So perhaps it's balanced for a reason by default. Yeah, because this isn't a huge jump. It's 10 or just over 10 FPS. Yeah. Yeah, on average, about a 10 increase. Alright, that'll do. So I'm going to change the mod configuration and come back. Okay, so straight away on the grid we can see that there's an FPS increase. And there is a visual deterioration. Not to say it looks bad, it still looks very good and sharp, but yeah, you can see it's not as crisp. In fact, you know, we've gone down from ultra quality 2 steps down to balanced, you know, quality then balanced, and it looks like we're going to achieve around a 25 per frame per second boost. That's a nice hefty boost, and the downgrade in visuals is minimal. Maybe slightly more noticeable than it was in ACC, but that's only because this is generally a clearer picture in VR anyway, I'd say. Still looks very good. You know, I'd happily play with these visuals. Don't get me wrong, everything is still perfectly legible. The dash there is very clear. I'm not paying any attention to my driving as per usual. And we're achieving a pretty darn good frame rate here. So we've gone, yeah, from 40 odd frames, just over 40 frames. We're getting up towards 70, we're at 75 here. So we haven't even hit the refresh rate. Obviously where we're bunching up, that's where we're struggling a little bit. Okay, that's quite a big jump. Close to 30, 25 odd. 25 odd FPS increase. So I think there's some tweaking to be had there. Obviously you don't need details as high as I've got them. I think it might be a case of bumping up from balance to quality, and then just lowering a few settings, because we don't need them all maxed out like that. Okay, so a long time later, I have been messing with all sorts of settings. Let me just quickly show you what we're at here, okay? MSAA high, everything else is pretty much reverted to what I used to be. Detailed grass off, enhanced mirror doesn't seem to make much visual difference to me. Pick crew, don't need it. And shadow environment reflections medium, car ultra. This is pretty much what I had anyway pre-mod. The only difference is MSAA is now high, not medium. Okay. Okay, right, with that said, where am I at? What am I doing? So, I am using the mod, but you may notice down there on FPS VR, I'm back to 80% super sampling, which is what I was on before the mod. So, I'm on 80% super sampling, no in-game sharpening, and 0.9 sharpening in the mod. And ultra quality again. So let me just recap: 80% Steam super sampling, ultra quality in the mod, 0.9 sharpening. And with those settings you've seen in game. Now I've messed around with going up and down in the mod settings, in Steam super sampling, in game, and this is what I've settled on. And let me explain why. Because essentially I'm on exactly what I was always up until now, only difference being is I'm using the mod and MSA is high. So why? Well, it looks amazing. It basically looks exactly the same to me. Maybe if you did side by side, you're going to notice a difference, but to me this looks just as good without the mod here. It looks fantastic. But there is still a benefit in frame rates, you see. Now, before, it was pretty much running there at 75 FPS, but it would dip in and out, you know. It wouldn't be a constant. It was pretty much there. What this mod is doing, without any real noticeable difference in visual quality, is keeping me locked at that 75 FPS, basically. Without OBS running, you know. I've just been testing for ages without OBS running, obviously. So I was doing lap after lap, and basically the average FPS was 75 or like 74.6. So the mod is just that maybe extra 10 frames per second or whatever it's giving is just a safety net, I would say, keeping me locked there. And what about at night? Okay, at night, so with these settings at night, it's not too bad. I'm getting about 55-60 FPS, which sounds bad because I'm obviously somewhat below the refresh rate, but I don't know, for whatever reason, and I'm not using any motion smoothing and whatnot, you know, relatively low frame rates. This game doesn't feel as bad as some. You know, it's not a bad. That's at night in the rain, and it felt quite smooth, perfectly playable. I'd be happy to race like it. Bearing in mind, I don't often race in those conditions. More often than not, it would just be a transition to or from night, because obviously this game is beautiful with sunset, sunrise. But you know, this game isn't bad at lower frame rates, so I'm really happy with that. And I'm really happy with what they've got here. I've tried various weathers, different cloud situations, and I'm just basically just staying at a beautiful 75 FPS. So the impact is nowhere near as great as ACC. You know, that's a no-brainer. Here, it's more of a take it or leave it. I mean, I'm using it. It's great, as I say, it's a safety net. But if you're not using a Pimax, if you don't have to use parallel projection, then you're gonna more than likely be getting pretty darn good performance anyway. What sort of benefit are you gonna see from using this mod? There's certainly some to be had, so don't dismiss it. Certainly give it a go if you're on the edge of hitting. Oh my god! So that car just looks awesome. So a little drop there, you know, but only a drop to 70 or so. You know, we're all still really close together because I've got I don't know what I've set it on. AI is lowish and aggressiveness is lowish, just because I wanted to keep everyone bunched together. Over time and on higher settings, obviously cars will space out, and there's even less strain on your graphics. So yeah, without OBS running, this is just a constant 75 FPS basically, and that's beautiful. So yeah, as I say, don't dismiss this mod. If your performance is on the fence of hitting reprojection, etc., certainly use it. But unlike ACC, don't lean on it too much. And this, for example, compared to ACC, the night racing is a massive hit. In fact, in ACC, night racing and night racing in the rain compared to clear day isn't that different. Isn't really that different performance-wise. This, it's about 25-30 FPS different. So I mean, if you really love racing at night and racing in the rain, you could tailor your settings to that. Then you're gonna have I don't know what I'm doing here. You're gonna have a lot of wasted headroom in any other condition. Anyway, so the waffle is high at this point. I'm pretty much got to just shut up. And those are my thoughts. Yeah, it's a good little boost. It's not working miracles. It's just keeping me capped at 75 FPS and a little bump at night. And there we go. So, any questions, any comments, drop them below, and I'll be happy to answer if I can. Otherwise, that'll do it for now, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.